Hey, welcome back to Dentistry Unmasked. I'm Dr. David Rice, Chief Editor of Dentistry IQ, with my partner in crime here.
Hey, Pamela Maragliano-Muniz, Chief Editor of Dental Economics. What is up this week?
I feel like we are a roundtable podcast, but there's two of us, and I've got a roundtable.
I have a round table too.
And I think as co-hosts, we could decide like what we want to do, right? Is that like an unwritten podcast rule, or is that like stamped out there somewhere?
I think I would imagine it's stamped out there like it's my show. I get to do whatever I want kind of thing.
It's my party. I can cry if I want to.
Exactly. So I started this Zoom link and this recording. So let's just go rogue and do whatever we want to do.
I like it. I
All
like
right.
it.
So, in the spirit of us having a me party or an us party and not having anybody else there, can we talk about sometimes we need to make a clean break from people? Obviously, it could be patients, it could be team members, it could be personally, whatever. But sometimes there are people in our lives that do not spark joy. And I think we need to sometimes make them go away. Have you ever had that happen?
That is a hard yes. I've had that happen. And so have you ever had the speech like it's not me, it's you, which is, usually not what we do, but sometimes what we need to do?
Um, I think that is sometimes like we know that in our heart, it's not me, it's you, but we always say it's not you, it's me, but we know the opposite. And so, yeah, let's talk about the yous that made me and you break up with them.
I love it. Okay, can I start with an awkward situation?
I love awkward situations. Yes.
So our practice up until 4 years ago was two, well, all male doctors and then an all female team. Just worked out that way. And one of our hygienists, who will remain unnamed, Emily, is awesome, like the other hygienist. And, just like super nice person, easy to get along with, attractive person. Like you just meet her and like you'd be drawn to her. So we're sitting around lunch one day and she's telling me the story about this patient who literally just left, and she's like telling me all the things this guy said. I'm like, Emily, like how? That's not cool. We can't have that. So he's coming back for perio treatment. I'm like, okay, so next time he comes back, like I've got to walk in. We just need to like clear all the other patients out of earshot, not make him feel uncomfortable. But I had to have it's not me, it's you. Like you can't behave, you can't say some of the things people say. I'm guessing you probably had some things said to you, but that was an awkward moment to part ways that way.
Okay. Well, this is Dentistry Unmasked. So I'm going to ask you to like, what did he say?
Well, he was very flirtatious, but the straw that broke the camel's back was when he hugged her and gave her a kiss on the lips goodbye.
Oh, okay. So a little assault action.
It was legit assault. And it wasn't like he was like, a 90-year-old cute little old guy who was, maybe feels like somebody's grandpa. Like he was like a 50-year-old guy. I'm like, does that work? Is that a strategy that I've been missing out on all my life? You just walk up and embrace and kiss somebody on the lips. I don't know.
It's so funny. We call it dental care and we care about our patients, but not that much.
No, no. Turns out Emily was not a fan. And I was more not a fan. I was mortified that like we didn't deal with it that day, but I was really grateful actually that he had an appointment to come back soon. Cause you know what it's like, Gibbs, rips up something in the house and I deal with it 6 months later. He doesn't understand. So it was great to have this conversation pretty ASAP with this guy.
So did you like lead with, "Hey, what's going on? We're here to do this today, but you cannot kiss my hygienist." Like, what did you say to them?
Only I am allowed to kiss my hygienist. No. I sat him down and said, hey, listen, before we get going today, we're not going to get going today. And I want to just have a conversation. I know, right? I have to just be honest with you. I'm like, Had a conversation with Emily. She shared what happened last time. That's just totally inappropriate. Can't have that here. Um, I hope you understand, no hard feelings moving forward, but I'm just going to ask if you wouldn't mind going home now and we just call this thing a day. And I was prepared, right? I had my little like one sheet of paper that said, here's, you have an emergency, you can reach out to us for 14 days and call the 8th District Dental Society. And thankfully, he turned like 14 shades of red and purple and just bowed out. Could have gone worse.
It could have gone
So
worse. Like that's like negative reviews waiting to happen, even though he's the one who puckered up first.
yeah, kiss and tell. I don't know. How about you? What kind of craziness goes on in Salem, Mass?
Oh my gosh, so much craziness. So this is new. This is recent. And so this was a little, okay, somebody might call it a little passive aggressive, but we did it anyway. So I had a patient referred to me, and the doctor who referred the patient to me kind of gave me the heads up like, hey, this isn't the nicest patient, and she's going to be really mean to the staff, but she's going to be really nice to you. So she's like fine to work on. And I was like, okay, couple things. If you're not nice to everybody in my office, then this isn't going to work. So she's going to know that from the second this begins. And okay, I mean, thanks for the referral, I guess. So
Yeah.
whatever. So this patient comes in. It was like the opposite happened. She was nice to everybody in the office except me. So basically, she sits down, I introduce myself, and I'm like, oh, the dentist that referred you, like, they're wonderful. I love them, like, blah, blah, blah. How can I help you? And it was like, those patients that don't even really want you to look in their mouth, but they want the solution and they want to know how much it's going to cost. But like, you didn't even get a chance to look in their mouth yet.
Yeah.
So it was like that. And I was like, okay, well, you're here for a consult. You're already being mean to me. And it was like those patients that are just super aggressive. And I'm thinking, this person's here for a full mouth rehab. You know how many hours a full mouth rehab is? And I'm not fast. And I'm like, I'm going to be spending collective days, weeks with this woman, and she's not even nice to me. So how is this going to possibly go well? Because let's face it, when you have a patient that like loves and trusts you, for some reason, everything goes really well. And when somebody's super skeptical and they kind of can't stand you, I feel like that's when shades don't match, contours are off, something doesn't fit. It's like a nightmare. So this was something I saw from like right away. So she was aggressive, and I was like, well, you'll have to come back and we'll have to do some more diagnosis, and it's going to take, a little time before I can give you a comprehensive plan. So we did a thing, and I don't really love doing this, and I've heard of people doing this, but like I had to make her go away. So we quoted her like a stupid amount of money for this records collection appointment, figuring she'd go away. She scheduled. She scheduled for this appointment. And so now I'm like, I can't believe she scheduled. And again, I don't think this is going to be a good match. And I'm going to have this conversation if I can't just make her go away organically. So the appointment was scheduled for this week. And we kind of went out of our way not to confirm this person. We just booked a whole schedule around like as if this appointment didn't exist. And she didn't show up. And
Thank God.
so, yeah, so I feel like we sort of broke up with her. I guess she broke up with us, but we made it bad enough for her to go away.
I don't know. I kind of feel like you did the ultimate breakup. You allowed her to break up with you when you wanted to break up with her. So it was her idea.
It was her idea. I made it. Yeah. So I was like, it's not me, it's you. And she's like, it's not me, it's you. So I'm going to go away. And I'm like, bye.
It feels like you might have done this once in your personal life, like you have a story.
Yeah. I mean, it's a little easier to ghost people that don't book appointments with you. But yeah, so this was something that just kind of had to happen. But I've had conversations like that before with patients, and it's super awkward. I've had patients make my team cry, and I have to sit them down and explain to them that they can't make these people cry because then they can't be a patient in the office. And it's hard when, like your patient, treatment wasn't really initiated yet. So it's easy to kind of make that break. But I
Yeah.
had somebody, I was in the middle of a big full arch case, and all of a sudden, like his temp broke or something, and I wasn't able to see him. I remember distinctly, I was at my periodontist's office, taking part in a surgery that was happening. Like I physically could not go and fix the temp that moment. And he freaked out and yelled at my office admin. And then I had to sit him down and be like, dude, you can't make people cry. And so this is somebody like I wish I made go away a long time ago, because this is the kind of patient that's like the human equivalent of stepping in gum.
Okay. So two things that happen all the time in practices, I'm sure on multiple levels. How should we break up with patients? Is there a way?
I don't know. I guess what we have to do is have those skills to identify who are a potential problem patient first,
That's a biggie.
and then maybe just make it not ever happen. Because once you're in that relationship and once you're starting care, then you really can't really get out of it. I had this idea, which I'm sure other people have done this before. My team shut it down so quickly because they don't want any more paperwork. But I was like, we should have a code of conduct. You have all of this paperwork that everybody fills out that's so, your medical history and HIPAA and, confidentiality, all this stuff. Why don't we have a patient code of conduct that they read and sign? And it's like, if you can't be respectful, you can't show up for appointments, you don't pay, you don't do all the things that a patient's supposed to do, then we reserve the right to end this relationship.
I love that. So it's funny you say that because we have all these agreements, not that we have tons, but we have agreements in our practice between like us as, leadership with team and then team to team and team to leadership back. And we have patient agreements more on like a technical term, but it'd be great to have a code of conduct agreement. This is who you promise at least not to be as a patient when you come and hang out with us.
Exactly. I like to wake up in the morning and show up at work and see my schedule and not mind everybody that comes in at the worst. I look forward to many of them and seeing what's up with them. But yeah, there's some people, like, when their appointment is like 2 weeks from now and you're like dreading that day. I hate that.
Okay. So most just awkward moment for you with the patient where maybe you didn't have to break up, but you had to definitely sit down and have like some sort of straight convo with them.
Oh my gosh. So this is awkward. And this is like, oh my gosh. So, okay, if you know me, I'll just be open about it. Like, my weight fluctuates like no other. Like, I'm like, like I can gain and lose weight like a celebrity for a movie role, unfortunately. And I remember early in my practice, this was so horrifying. I had this old lady in the chair, and I'm like kind of gaining weight. I just bought my practice. I was like stressed out, like whatever. And she looks at me and she's like, "Are you pregnant?" And this is with my hygienist at the time. And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "What? Twins?" And I literally had to yell at the top of my voice, "No, I'm just fat." And I just yelled this at this woman. And you can see that now I've yelled it. My hygienist like wants to die. She's so embarrassed. The patient is super embarrassed. I'm like so annoyed that I had to yell this and that this is even coming up. And now this is my reality, that I'm so fat that people think I'm pregnant. I never saw her again. And I'm not really that sad about it, but it did make me change my ways a little bit.
I love that story. All right. I'm going to give
Great.
slight tangent here, but so, not been a question for me being a guy, but Laura, I'm going to say the youngest dentist in our practice, she was pregnant. And I mean, and Laura's like one of those like stick people, right? She just got like crazy genetics, whatever. So now she's a stick person. If you saw her from the back or maybe even the front, like you just wouldn't even notice. But if you saw her from the side, be like, all right, something's up. Is something up? So she's legit pregnant. And I think women in general deal with this better than men. So let's say male patient walks in and is kind of trying to, you could see him processing like, is she pregnant? Is she not? Do I say something? Do I not? So he's looking at her and he says, and this is all vicariously, I'm getting the story through Laura, bless her. She's awesome. She's like, so he looks at me and says, like, so what's new? And only as Laura could do, she's like, well, I've been eating a lot more and I'm getting kind of heavy. And then just carried on conversation of normal. And this guy's 14 shades of white. I'm like, did you ever tell him that you were pregnant? She's like, no, I just let him walk out thinking. I love that.
When we see people day in and day out, sometimes we have to entertain ourselves,
We
right?
have to create things,
Most
totally create things.
most definitely. So I know we don't have a ton of time left, but
Yeah.
have you ever had to, I mean, you had to have, how do you break up with a team? Do you do it like as quickly as possible? Do you kind of, I mean, drag it out? I think we've all made the mistake with any breakup, letting things drag out longer than they need to. What's your feeling on team members that need to go?
So, and I'll caveat this with I was not good at this when I was a brand new owner. I was absolutely like the person you dated and you knew you shouldn't be dated, and all your friends and family knew. So I sucked at it in the beginning. But what I learned was like, um, once we had our agreements, it became easier. So we built a 3 strike rule, and basically the frame of the story is like, hey, everybody knows how we win at East Amherst Dental Center, and then everybody knows that if this is how we win the game, that there's some rules to the game. And we all literally, we still do this to this day. We sit down at a table every fall, we review next year's plan, and we say like, this is who we agree to be. And then our 3 strike plan is really simple. The first time a team member goes against who they promised to be, we have a little one-on-one conversation. We, of course, note HR, and then we just move on. The second time they do it, we have a more serious conversation. We note HR and we say, hey, David, you do remember how this works, right? And then we pause and we make David say, yes, 3rd strike, and I'm out. And we've only had to do this one time, which is really cool. We had to sit a David Rice down and say, hey, do you know why we're here? And that David Rice said, I do. I let the team down. I broke my promise. I kid you not, Pam, took keys out of pocket, rested them on our round table in our private office, and said, I'm really sorry. And I learned in that moment that like all these lessons that I learned, I'm like, they actually work, but they require us to have a process, and they require us to have, I think, the strength to trust that process. Because after, like, I was dying. I was dying on the inside that whole day in anticipation of that conversation. But once we did it, I realized I'm like, wow, this didn't have to be adversarial, me versus you. You're a bad person. I'm a bad person. It's just objective. We agreed to these things, and then you chose to do something that was different than what you agreed to do.
I love that. So setting expectations, and then
Mhm.
not only from the leadership standpoint, but the team standpoint, everybody's accountable.
Everybody. And I'll be honest with you, the hardest accountable human in that relationship was me, having to say, okay, I'm not going to give that person one more time, or it's not going to get better on its own. And then the moment we trusted that we could go through with it and hold ourselves accountable, it actually worked. So
It does work. That's amazing. So I love that you have a process. I'd say I have a process too that's similar once you're considered an employee, but we have a trial period.
oh, I like that.
And to get through that trial period is not easy. So my
Okay.
process, I know this is going to sound like super Black Widow, but it's pretty obvious quickly if somebody's going to fit in or if they're not. And if it's just not going to work, I literally see my office manager walk by my office and I'm like, hey, Brittany. She comes in and I'm like, make them go away.
It's like the mafia.
Well, she loves firing people. And so there's been times when I've fired people and she's mad at me because she didn't get the opportunity to do it. So I'm like, all right, well, you know what? You like doing it. I don't mind it, but I feel like if you like it, it's all yours.
Who am I to deny you what you love doing so
Who
well?
am I to deny you? Exactly. Well, this has been fun. I like us parties.
This is a fun us party. We have to do this again.
We're going to have to do this again. So, everybody, if you've broken up with a team member or a patient or you have a story, hit us up on social because we certainly want to hear it. And if you like this episode, why don't you give us a 5 stars? Don't you want a review?
I would love a review, please. 5 stars, anything less than 4.95, just keep it to yourself.
Exactly. Do what Thumper's mom said. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. So, David, this was fun. And guys, can't wait to see y'all next week.
Cheers.
Thank you, everyone, for watching or listening to the show this week. And thanks to our guests and sponsors on this episode.
Please check out our social media at Dr. Pamela_Maragliano and at Dental Economics Official.
Or you can check me out at Ignite DDS or at Dr. David Rice.
And go to dentaleconomics.com to receive dental economics. You can choose to receive DE in print or digitally, and you can also get the details of our Principles of Practice Management conference on our website.
If you have topics or guests or anything you'd like to talk about on the show, send us an email to dentistryunmaskedpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our very best to make it happen. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.